Welcome into 49ers Access. My name is Sterling Bennett, and we are still, I guess you can say, in the aftermath of the breaking Brandon Aiyuk news that the San Francisco 49ers are indeed allowing him to talk to other teams and are indeed allowing him to essentially facilitate a trade outside of San Francisco. We are in the midst of this Brandon Aiyuk saga potentially coming to an end with him again being traded elsewhere. It seems like the top three candidates as of yesterday were the Cleveland Browns, the New England Patriots, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But again, yesterday, people like Adam Schefter, people like Mike Garafolo had said the Pittsburgh Steelers are out. But today has brought brand new, exciting developments in the Aiyuk saga. And like Niners media says here, never an offseason without drama. Raphael562 says, what's up, Sterling? Everybody else, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And let's dive into what is the truth regarding the San Francisco 49ers potential trade of Brandon Aiyuk and his trade request. So, today we're going to dive into what I know, what the media is telling us, my understanding of the situation and potential deals on the table, and even how San Francisco could potentially find their way into retaining Brandon Aiyuk after everything that's transpired. So to begin today's show, let's start where yesterday ended. When your head hit the pillow, the news was San Francisco is open to talking to teams like the Patriots and like the Browns. Those two teams have essentially a trade package in place, the framework of a trade in place for Brandon Aiyuk that San Francisco likes. Then this morning, Ian Rappaport said this: the Pittsburgh Steelers are for sure in it right now in trade talks involving Brandon Aiyuk with the San Francisco 49ers. The Browns and Patriots are also involved. In fact, they are a little ahead of the Steelers in trade talks with San Francisco. So right then and there, already a reversion of what we learned yesterday. Oh, it's the Browns and the Patriots. The Steelers are out. They're out. They're done. They're out of this thing. No. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in fact, were never out of this thing. And Niner media, the reason why I can smile through all this is because it's almost comical that the media and even the Niners are trying to spin this. And I'm not one to usually dive into rumors or talk about what I've heard or been told. But I think at this point, a lot is happening. There's this source-off, a sources war, if you will, between Pretty Ricky and Cam Marino and others. So I think what's going on is that you can choose what you want to believe, and I'll choose what I'm going to believe in this. And I firmly believe that, well, yes, the Cleveland Browns and the New England Patriots have offers on the table. I agree. The framework of a deal is certainly in place with those two teams, but isn't it weird that yesterday the Steelers were reportedly told they are not a destination for Aiyuk, that San Francisco had kind of written them off as a potential partner. Now in less than 24 hours, they're back involved in trade talks? Well, that's weird. What changed? Oh, it almost seems like San Francisco's playing the piper here. They're on the fiddle. We don't like what the Steelers have offered us, so let's make it seem like we love what the Browns and the Patriots have offered us, despite not really having an opportunity to send Aiyuk there, because he has openly said and denied being traded there. Aiyuk's not going to New England unless something changes. He's already vetoed a trade to Cleveland. San Francisco knows this, but again, they make a big stink yesterday. Pittsburgh's out of this thing. They're not a destination now. In less than 24 hours, they're back in the thick of it. Interesting. In fact, they're in it for sure, according to Ian Rappaport. Come on. Come on. Even Adam Schefter, as Niner practice ends, and Kyle Shanahan's supposed to talk, and about 250 plus people are waiting on the Niners YouTube channel to see what he has to say, to see what Kyle Shanahan's gonna say. Adam Schefter releases this tweet. The Niners and the Steelers have re-engaged in conversations mid-today regarding Brandon Aiyuk per league sources. As of Monday night, Niners and Steelers talks had stalled, but there have been further conversations today in an ever-fluid situation that still involves other teams as well. My takeaway is, I'm shocked. I'm so surprised. Who would have thought? It's almost like San Francisco knows Pittsburgh is the only team willing to meet Brandon Aiyuk's demands. So they're using a team like the Browns, a team like the Patriots as leverage, since the Niners have very little leverage in trade talks. San Francisco is playing the game. Aiyuk played the game all offseason, right? I'm not going to ask for a trade. Hope things work itself out. Now I'm going to hold in. I'm going to go on social media. I'm going to do this and that and the other, which was relatively tame, right? But now that we're here, 4 days prior to week 1 of the NFL preseason, now he wants out. They haven't talked in months, according to Matt Mayoko. The Niners and Brandon Aiyuk have not engaged in contract talks for months. Now all of a sudden the trade's on the table. Now all of a sudden things are heating up. No. Yes, he can get traded. Yes, I think a trade is going to happen now. My mind has flipped of what might transpire because there's too much smoke happening, but I truly believe this. San Francisco realized they are not going to likely get a deal done with Brandon Aiyuk. Thus, they said, we have deals on the table. And this is my understanding of the situation. San Francisco had been fielding talks the entire offseason for Brandon Aiyuk. Pre-draft, during the draft, and so on and so forth after the draft. And even right now, still fielding trade talks. Never openly calling teams, but teams could call them and ask, what would you want in exchange for Brandon Aiyuk? They got offers from the Patriots and the Browns they liked. They tabled those offers, put them in their back pocket for a rainy day. Said, you know what, if things go awry, if things sour, we have these deals on the table. They approached Aiyuk and said, hey, we have deals we like. We can send you to Cleveland or New England. Aiyuk said, heck no. I'm not going to New England or Boston to play in Massachusetts, a rebuilding team with a new head coach, a young quarterback, an unproven rookie quarterback taken through a 3rd overall this year. I'm not going to Cleveland although Shanahan style offense to be the number 1 receiver for a team that has Nick Chubb off an ACL, a rather broken Deshaun Watson, and I'm going to have to play against the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals every single season, twice a year, mind you. I'm not going to Ohio. It's not going to happen. There's no way. San Francisco said, okay, we'll put that in our back pocket. Then the Steelers made an offer. They told Aiyuk, we'll meet your money demand, no problem. We'll pay you, no problem. Aiyuk likes Mike Tomlin. He can envision himself playing there. He's openly said it a handful of times in private, and I'm sure, like we saw on the Pivot podcast, in public. If it ain't the Niners, ain't the Commanders, I'll play with the Steelers. Aiyuk has a connection there. Now, I don't understand that entirely. Why would you want to play in Pittsburgh? It's a very similar situation to Cleveland, right? But more stability, great head coach, rich history of the organization. Was it 5 Super Bowls now, I believe? Like, the organization knows how to win and doesn't have losing seasons. But from a competitive standpoint, probably not going to be vying for a Super Bowl with that quarterback room, right? Aiyuk then tells San Francisco, I'm not going to go to Cleveland or New England, but I'll go to Pittsburgh. They'll pay me what I want. That's where I want to play. If I'm not going to play here, I'm not going to play in Washington. I'll play in Pittsburgh. That's the deal I want. So what does San Francisco do? They engage in trade talks with the Steelers, trying to see if they can reach a deal with Pittsburgh. And it's not like these things just happened overnight. San Francisco had offers like Cleveland's and like New England's on the table for weeks. For weeks. They tabled them. They put them in their back pocket knowing, hey, we might have to utilize these, right? Then Pittsburgh came offering rather lowball offers. They don't have much to offer. They can't give you a Amari Cooper. They can't give you a Kendrick Bourne or a Matthew Judon, a player on an expiring contract to help you win now still. All they have is draft picks and maybe some vets that can be depth pieces for you. You've heard about offensive lineman James Daniel. You've heard about Calvin Austin Jr. and some draft picks involved in offers. Whereas San Francisco is probably going to want a first-round pick and some players, knowing Pittsburgh doesn't lose. They don't have losing seasons. They never have lost under Mike Tomlin. So San Francisco doesn't like what Pittsburgh has to offer. Tell them, you're out. You're done. We're not going to take that. We like the Browns and the Patriot deal, Aiyuk. You want to be here or you want to be in Cleveland? Pick one. They're essentially playing the trick. They're doing the ploy of what parents do when their kid threatens to move out. Oh, you want to move out? You want to move out? Fine. Your bags are packed. You can go live with your Aunt Judy for a month and see how you like it. Tell me how much you don't need me. Fine. Let's see how you really feel. Now, when you're put face to face with the choice, how are you going to react? Are you going to play this game of, I'm out of here, I'm done? Or are you going to face the fact and say, hey, I'll make a deal with you now? Because you don't want to play in Cleveland. We know you don't want to play in Cleveland. We know you don't want to play in New England. We know you want to play with the Steelers. We're not going to let you go to Pittsburgh. The only offer you have is us or them. And the them is two places you do not want to be. So pick one. That's what San Francisco is doing. Now, in that, San Francisco also forces a team like the Steelers to either raise their offer and make it more enticing for San Francisco or not get Aiyuk at all. That's the way they're doing this. San Francisco, albeit you can fault them for bad negotiating tactics, fine. I don't believe San Francisco really wants to trade Brandon Aiyuk. They were getting offers before the NFL draft. That was the opportunity to trade Aiyuk. Now, all of a sudden, you don't want to trade him? Or all of a sudden, now you want to trade him? All of a sudden, it's, hey, Pittsburgh and New England and Cleveland. No, they've had these deals on the table for months. This is, in a way, because Aiyuk hasn't said anything. Aiyuk has said nothing. Nothing in the media recently. This all feels like San Francisco essentially telling Aiyuk, it's us or it's a place you don't want to be. Now, here's the kicker. Aiyuk has leverage here. Where he doesn't have it in contract negotiations, he has it in trade negotiations. You can tell a team like New England. You can tell a team like Cleveland, I'm not going to go there. In fact, he already has done that. But, here's the thing. Money talks. And according to Justina Anderson, as of maybe an hour ago, if that, the New England Patriots have re-engaged in trade talks for Brandon Aiyuk. And I can guarantee you what's transpiring is this. San Francisco, well, yes, is negotiating with the Steelers, sure. San Francisco wants to take, if they have to trade Aiyuk, the Browns or the Patriots offer. The Patriots, their negotiating leverage here is that, you know what? We can give Brandon Aiyuk more money than the Steelers and San Francisco. You know, Brandon, I get it. We aren't the Niners. We aren't the Steelers. But I tell you what, you want to get paid like Justin Jefferson? You want $32 million a year? We can do that. And money talks. That's what's happening, in my opinion. You don't want to go to Cleveland, fine. But you want to go to Pittsburgh? San Francisco says, we're not going to send you there. We're not going to send you there. What we're going to do is we're going to tell you, too bad, us or New England or Cleveland, those are your options. See if you cave. See if you break. If you don't break, if you don't cave, they're going to have a team like the Patriots, or hope the team like the Patriots says, hey, Brandon, we'll give you $32, $34 million, make you the second highest paid receiver in football, in hopes that they can get, whether it's draft picks in Kendrick Bourne, Matthew Judon, or in Bourne, whatever the offer is, right? That's what's happening right now. It's all negotiating tactics. Pittsburgh, you're out last night. Today, you're right back in the thick of things. If we can milk Pittsburgh for all they have, we'll give you Brandon Aiyuk, fine. If you can add a starter and some draft picks and some depth, we'll do that deal. But the Patriots, we'll take your second-round pick, Kendrick Bourne, maybe a player, maybe it's Matthew Judon, maybe it's a third-round pick as well. Like, you're not getting a first-round pick from New England, but you can get a bigger haul, and they can pay Aiyuk more than he is actually asking for currently, right? Cleveland, I think, is out of it. Cleveland, to me, is done. Cleveland, yeah, they can probably give you the best deal, Cooper, and a second-round pick for Aiyuk. Aiyuk's not going to Cleveland. This is a Patriots, Niners, and Steelers bidding war. And right now, San Francisco essentially is telling Aiyuk, you're going to play Russian roulette. We're going to put 2 bullets in the gun, in the clip. You're going to spin it, okay? And you're going to either go to New England, we're going to milk Pittsburgh for all they have, or you're going to re-sign with us. Because they have leverage in contract negotiations. They have the 5th-year option. If Aiyuk sits out, I think, 9 or 10 games, the year doesn't count towards an accrued season. San Francisco, although the way things are leaning, is Aiyuk is going to be gone. San Francisco is playing the game. They're playing the ultimate hardball. Now, is it right? I don't think so. I think Aiyuk is worth $28 million a year. Now, we have no idea what Aiyuk is asking for. It could be 28, could be 30, 32. But I tell you this, Kyle Posey today said that he saw, a national reporter saw Aiyuk's agent in-house. In-house. They're talking to Aiyuk's agent. Now, again, I do think this is what do you really want? Again, it's going back to that child that's acting up. You want to threaten to leave? Fine, leave. Go on the cold concrete and go be homeless for a hot second. Obviously, Aiyuk's not going to be homeless, but you get my point. San Francisco is fed up with this. Either re-sign or we are going to send you someplace you don't want to be. And unfortunately for Brandon Aiyuk, it's sign for less money in San Francisco or go play somewhere else you don't want to be. What's more enticing to you? That's what the Niners are doing. Now, again, I think San Francisco is playing a losing battle. I think San Francisco knows they're playing a losing battle. Because to me, the way this thing's going to play out is the Patriots are not going to offer enough money for Aiyuk to say yes, ultimately screwing San Francisco in trade talks with them, narrowing their options of Pittsburgh or the Niners. And at that point, Aiyuk, I think, is at a point where he's kind of done too. He wants out. He's out of there. Now, I believe that Aiyuk at this point is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. I think they are willing to pay Aiyuk, and I think ultimately they'll give San Francisco just enough to say yes. They're going to wash their hands of Aiyuk, be able to sign players like Mooney Ward, Hufanga. They're going to be able to re-sign players like Dre Greenlaw and Lenore and many others, right? Now, trading Aiyuk would be the ultimate fail by the front office. The ultimate fail. Ultimate fail. This is worse than Buckner. San Francisco missed their chance to trade Aiyuk in April. You could have had the 17th overall pick. You could have had a tackle, a right guard, an edge rusher. You could have had your guy. Now, there is a way San Francisco can win this. But before we dive into that, I want to thank our sponsor today, Sports Spider. I wanted to give them a brief shout out because I'll tell you what, Sports Spider, if you are tired of searching multiple websites for sporting news, you're on ESPN, you're on Fox, you're on sportingnews.com, you have to go to 17 different websites to get the news you want. Go to sportsspider.com. They're going to have you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from all around the web and organize them in one place. And you can sort them by your favorite team. If you want to stay up to date on everything regarding the Niners, hit that link in the description down below and check out sportsspider.com. Now, before I talk about how I think San Francisco can reclaim leverage over the situation, I do want to discuss, apparently, a deal that is being discussed. Now, this is by Andrew Filipponi of 93.7 The Fan, who is not the most reliable person, but I can tell you this, that someone I've been talking to that's been adamant. Now, again, I'm no Adam Schefter, I'm no Rap Sheet, or I'm no Garofalo. I am nobody. But this is what Filipponi has said the Steelers are willing to give up in a trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Dan Moore Jr., swing tackle. James Daniels, an offensive guard. Receiver Calvin Austin, and a second-round pick. Now, I don't know if this is how you feel, but I don't buy that one bit. Yeah, of course, that's a lowball offer. You want to give me a journeyman tackle, a border potential starting guard? We just got Dominic Pooney. We brought back John Feliciano and Burford. We have Aaron Banks. Now, James Daniels is a fine player. He's a good player. Where is he going to play? That doesn't make sense. Sure, you can strengthen your depth, but is that worth trading Aiyuk for? Calvin Austin Jr., a fine young receiver. He can make a few plays for you. And a second-round pick. You ultimately have 3 depth pieces and a second-round pick. Is that enough for Aiyuk? I don't think so. Now, Filipponi also said he's heard San Francisco wants one of these back in a trade for Aiyuk. The first one being a first-round pick. That makes sense. A first-round pick for Aiyuk, to me, should be the starting point, if not a second-round pick and 3 players. San Francisco apparently is also asked for Pat Freiermuth. Okay, young tight end to be behind George Kittle. Be your tight end number 2. Kittle's getting older. Maybe you don't want to re-sign him. Bang. Interesting. Okay. Does San Francisco use backup tight ends? Not much. Is it worth it? Now, I will be the first person to say that the tight end room right now is pretty weak. Getting you another weapon if you want to run, 11 personnel consistently, man, cool, great. George Pickens, I'll tell you this now. For as talented as George Pickens is, there is no way on God's green earth Kyle Shanahan wants to deal with George Pickens in his offense. There's no way. Of those 3 people that San Francisco may want in a package, be the leader of a package. To me, it goes first-round pick, Pat Freiermuth, then Pickens. Pickens can't block. He has an attitude problem. And if he doesn't get the football, which Aiyuk has already complained about, essentially, if he wants more targets, Pickens will throw a fit, and you'll have to let him go in a year or 2 anyways. San Francisco is not asking for George Pickens. In fact, I would ask for Alex Highsmith. I would ask for Minka Fitzpatrick. Now, even then, those ain't going to happen. If I was San Francisco, it's give me a star edge rusher, give me a star safety, give me a first-round pick or Pat Freiermuth. That's the starting point. One of those 4 things, then you can talk about Calvin Austin. Then you can talk about second-round picks. Then you can talk about something else. It starts first-round pick, Freiermuth, then everything else. And look, I like Calvin Austin. Is Calvin Austin going to be an impact player in a receiver room with Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Cowing? Probably not. He'll be your fourth receiver. He's young, mind you, but still, he's like, is that moving the needle? And look, Ollie, again, I like Calvin Austin. He'll be a good player. I just don't know if that moves the needle. But if I was making a perfect trade package, if I was San Francisco, and this would probably get shot down, but let's be somewhat realistic here. Let's say it was Pat Freiermuth, a second-round pick, and James Daniels. You get a potential starting tight end, second-round pick of the future, and an offensive lineman. Is that good enough for you? If it isn't Pat Freiermuth, then give me Alex Highsmith. Give me an edge rusher room that needs some depth. Give me Bosa, Highsmith, Floyd, and Gross Matos. Now, even then, and this is the big issue here, San Francisco's already put money into the edge rushing room. They brought in Floyd. They brought in Gross Matos. Would they put more money and throw more money at the position for an elongated period of time? I don't think so. And Anthony, you're right. A lot of Niner fans overvalue Aiyuk. What you may think San Francisco, or excuse me, what I think Aiyuk's worth is not what the Steelers view him as. Lee Johnson, I get it, right? Pittsburgh's not going to gut their franchise for Aiyuk, and I don't blame them. They're not trading Pickens, first-round picks. No, it's going to be second-round pick and a handful of players. But I'll tell you what, San Francisco's going to want an impact player in return. If the rumors are to be believed, and Amari Cooper is on the table, why would San Francisco accept a less of an impact player from Pittsburgh unless there's more picks on the table? So again, the way things are playing out, and I've been told by someone that right now, what's being put together is James Daniels, it is Calvin Austin Jr., and some picks. Now, I don't get it. I would not trade with Pittsburgh. Not at all. I would say, look, Aiyuk, it's us or them. Cleveland, and it's going to be New England. Pick one. And you got to hope a team like New England will pay Aiyuk big money to sway him towards their side. Now, let me explain to you how San Francisco could get leverage back. So San Francisco is currently in a pickle. Rock in a hard place, right? What do? The Pittsburgh Steelers might be the only team that has leverage in trade talks because they're the only team so far Aiyuk will sign with. And Aiyuk can refuse to play for New England, Cleveland, and he can even refuse to play for San Francisco. But San Francisco could choose not to trade Aiyuk. Let him rot on the sideline and see what he'll do. Call us bluff. If Aiyuk wants to be traded that bad, he wants out of here that bad, again, you don't have to trade him. You can sit there and let him watch practice from the sideline, in the cart, in the weight room, and see what he does. Will he eventually cave? There's no pressure now. You don't need to move anybody now. You don't have to trade him really until a week and a half prior to week one. That's all you need. There's no pressure on a Tuesday afternoon, Pacific Coast time, to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Yes, maybe the compensation is right, and Aiyuk says no, sure. But there's a real, just like Kyle Shanahan said today, everything's on the table, and nothing has changed. They're willing to trade Aiyuk, as they are every single player besides Nick Bosa and Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and probably Brock Purdy, but everybody else is on the table. San Francisco could tell Aiyuk no. Pittsburgh's off the table. Cleveland, no. Patriots, no. It's you or the sideline. You want to play and suit up? Great. You want to sit and rot? Great. You're not going to accrue a season. if you don't play over 9 games. We have your 5th-year option, and they can franchise tag you. If San Francisco wanted to be the ultimate a-holes, if you will, they could. If San Francisco wanted to be maybe one of the biggest, I'm not going to say the word, but they could really put an end to the whole thing and triple down, quadruple down. Say, no, I'm not moving you. If you don't play, fine. You're only hurting yourself. Only hurting yourself. And in my opinion, they shouldn't trade Aiyuk. They're going to hurt themselves this year. They're not going to get back a player of high enough value to replace what Aiyuk does. Even if it is a star defensive player, let's say like Matthew Judon, like an Alex Highsmith, which again, there's been no indication those guys are on the table. You're not going to, Ricky Pearsall's not going to be Aiyuk in year 1. Is Juwan Jennings a bona fide number 2 receiver? Maybe, but we haven't seen that just yet. You're banking on, if you trade Aiyuk, guys stepping up, in which they haven't been proven to do so. You're actively hurting your chances to win the Super Bowl. And that would go against everything you've preached for the last 3 seasons. In fact, what you preached a lot during this offseason. They shouldn't trade Aiyuk. In fact, they don't have to trade Aiyuk. Yes, Aiyuk has leverage in trade talks, virtue of a veto. He can say, I don't want to go here and here and here. You can take that away by not having trade conversations. You can essentially, and I hate to use this verbiage, you can essentially keep him prisoner and make him be his own worst enemy. You can essentially, and this is definitely a metaphor, you can have him be locked up in Levi Stadium on Mondays, Sundays, and Thursdays. Man, I mean, you can ruin Brandon Aiyuk's season. And honestly, you can ruin 2 years of his career if you wanted to. Now, it's probably going to end up badly for you. It may not work, but I do think that this is, if they want to enact on this, that would be the only way they can retain him. Either you play for us or you don't play at all. And if you don't play at all, then we have you by the gonads for the next 2 years. San Francisco doesn't have to blink at all. At all. And what will be, and here's the thing, is that I know there's a lot of heat currently on San Francisco and Aiyuk. You know, things are heating up. Things are happening left and right. And everyone's reporting on stuff. And this is happening and that's happening, right? But I will say this. Nothing has to happen. That's this like misconception. Nothing has to happen right now. Not a single thing. Not a single thing. You can sit there and just wait. And in fact, I put it this way. I used to watch the George Lopez show, Nick at Night, right? You sit on your hands. Sit on your hands and see what Aiyuk does. My wife, to get me to talk and say, I'm sorry, gives me a silent treatment. They've been giving him the silent treatment for months. They've not been negotiating. Sure, it can make Aiyuk want to leave more. And that's, I think, is why that's the end game in regards to the final ploy. But I don't think like that, and Steven says it perfectly here. Having your employer do that to you would only make them want to leave even more. That would make the organization look bad. Not sure other players want to join, which you're right. You're right. But that's why it is like the final last-ditch effort. Because right now, it feels like he's gone. He wants out. It's over with. It is done. He wants to go to Pittsburgh. They're trying to work things out. But it's kind of over with. If I were to guess, he's a Steeler by tomorrow, the end of the week. It feels like this is over with. San Francisco is playing a losing battle. San Francisco tried to do Aiyuk like they did Fred and Deebo and Nick, and arguably even worse than those guys, and it backfired. And it goes to show you that players are different. players are different emotionally. They're different off the field, how they handle things. Deebo has said the entire process, it's hard not to take things personal. You don't think, like Bobo says here, paying Chris McCaffrey, drafting Pearsall and Cowing, that doesn't affect somebody? And not to say that it shouldn't or it should. It bothered me. But Aiyuk also texted San Francisco after the pick saying, fire pick. I don't think the Pearsall draft pick actually bothered Aiyuk to a point of him wanting to be out of there. What I think happens is, because Aiyuk's not a diva, Aiyuk doesn't want the attention. Aiyuk called a meeting with the organization himself, not his agent. This is not a, San Francisco made so many mistakes along the way. The San Francisco's biggest mistake that I've seen has not been talking to Aiyuk. That's the mistake. It's like when you're in high school, right? You like the girl, you like the boy, and it's high school. People are weird. People are emotional. People are don't know who they are just yet, but you like her, you like him, but you don't really talk much. You like each other from afar, but after a while, you lose interest. You're like, oh man, do they actually like me? Do they actually care? Then you move on. San Francisco, in a sense, neglected Aiyuk for months and didn't say anything. He's been at the facility and they aren't having conversations of contract talks. That's weird. That's really weird. But even then, you have to ask yourself, would Aiyuk be happy in Pittsburgh? Arthur Smith, a run-first team, no real quarterbacks to talk about. It's like, man, Papa J says here, Brandon in San Francisco is like a hot girl from Oregon. She might be a 10 in Oregon, but she's a 7 in LA. Well, I'm not going to go and criticize girls in Pittsburgh, but I can guarantee you Brandon Aiyuk's not going to be a 10 in Pittsburgh. Does he fit what they've historically wanted out of their players? In fact, I can argue that Aiyuk fits more in Pittsburgh than Pickens does, but again, it just doesn't make sense. Yes, he wants to play with Tomlin. I totally get that. I love and respect the heck out of Mike Tomlin. But San Francisco is playing a losing battle. If they keep him and they play hardball and he re-signs for a lower contract or what they're offering him, he's going to be pissed. He's not going to be happy. He'll be disgruntled potentially. If they trade him, you're not going to get back what you want. Tony here says there is no scenario where the Niners win a trade involving a 26-year-old all-pro receiver in his prime with zero injury history. Tony, you're right. That's why this sucks. San Francisco overplayed their cards by not talking to him, by being coy. Oh, we'll handle it later down the road. And Aiyuk's like, no, let's get this out of the way. Let's get this out of the way. San Francisco, if they don't re-sign Aiyuk, botched this. They botched it, depending on the return. Now, again, if what's on the table is to be accurate, the only return I can see valuable at all is Amari Cooper and the second or third round pick for Aiyuk. But again, Pittsburgh's not going, Aiyuk's not going to Cleveland. He already said no. The only team he's been willing to go to is Pittsburgh. And the truth is, Pittsburgh holds leverage. And San Francisco is trying to get leverage back by, hey, you're out in New England. What's going on? It's like the old ploy in the movies. To make the girl jealous, to make the boy jealous, you go date somebody else. You go kiss somebody else. You're seen in public with somebody else. Who's winning this battle? Ultimately, everybody gets hurt. Aiyuk goes to a team he doesn't want to go to. You lose your all-pro receiver. You get draft picks and an unproven pick at that. Here's the thing. You get draft picks, great. Oh, second-round pick. That can be at the end of the second round. That could be a late second-round pick. That could be, you have no idea what's going to happen. And if it is a Calvin Austin the third for Dan Moore and 2 picks, San Francisco loses instantly. Sure, you free up money here or there. You can now pay Trent Williams, but like San Francisco already has the funds. Again, they're playing a losing battle, and it's their fault. They didn't attack this from day one to get it done. They thought they had a deal in order before the draft. It didn't happen. They waited and waited and waited and waited and waited, and they thought, we'll get this thing done eventually. And Aiyuk was like, I want $30 million. They said, whoa, it's a little too much for us. And then San Francisco said, well, we can't do that. Thus, now this insane trade talk, hot stove happening. Where in the next few minutes, and Tony, you're right, San Francisco misjudged the market. But even then, and I'll be the first to say this, throughout the entire offseason, I thought a deal was going to get done. And part of me deep down still believes there's a chance. Now, maybe it's 1% chance, 10% chance. I have a hard time believing, for as smart as San Francisco is, to have the foresight to trade for Christian McCaffrey, to trade for Trent Taylor, to draft Fred Warner and get George Kittle, and how smart they've been with how they've re-signed their players. They're not going to let a 26-year-old all-pro receiver walk out the door, meaning of their first-round picks dating back to 2017, Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Mike McGlinchey, Nick Bosa, Javon Kinlaw, Brandon Aiyuk, and Trey Lance, and this year Ricky Pearsall, you're only going to tell me one of those guys you're going to re-sign to a new contract? What is that? That's a horrible look for a franchise. That sure, some of those guys are busts, fine. Injuries occur, fine. You don't want to pay McGlinchey what the Broncos paid him, fine. I totally get that. But you're going to let Aiyuk walk out the door, being the only other all-pro receiver you've ever had? And it's like, Niner Media, if they lose him, this is going to be the new example of how you botch an offseason. Buckner made sense, and I get it sucked to lose him. It sucked to lose him. Great player, defensive tackle. And yes, Kinlaw didn't work out. It made sense to move Buckner. You can move Buckner, and Armstead comes back, Jimmy Ward comes back, and others. You can keep the remaining core intact, or more of them intact. It makes sense. This is going to become the example of what not to do in free agency. It's going to also give other players on the team, going to give them a way to how to get out of their contracts. It's going to give them the blueprint to play San Francisco. Like, this is not, you're not getting a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. No way. No way. And I hope I'm saying this right. Ridi Music, you're right. No one wants him like that. Nobody wants Aiyuk like that. But also, how do we know they waited? Matt Maiocco said yesterday they haven't had talks for months. Training camp's been happening for 2-3 weeks now. That was the perfect opportunity to reignite those conversations. And they didn't. And you're right, Invader 49er. If Shanahan wants to win, you don't make that trade. You don't make that trade. There's no way. It would look, San Francisco would look like a scarlet letter if they trade Aiyuk away, because they're not going to get equal value. There's no way. The perfect time to trade him was in April before the draft for pick 17. And they said no. In fact, they even said no to pick 34 from New England. A pick they knew where they were going to be taking somebody. Like, they could have had Cooper DeJean. They could have had a cornerback, a tackle, a guard, whatever you want to put in there. They could have had a guaranteed, we are going to pick in this slot. If you trade for just draft picks now, it's a bunch of unknowns in the draft class. You have no idea how good they're going to be. Just bad. It's bad. And JD here, A second-round pick and a backup tackle? You have Trent. You have McKivitz. Jalen Moore has been fine. You don't need a backup tackle. That's not good enough for a star receiver. And it's funny because people were taking what Kyle Shanahan said today out of context. Way out of context. People were saying when Kyle Shanahan was asked today, how are your emotions going to be if Aiyuk is not out there? He said calculated and ready and prepared. He wasn't referring to we knew this was going to happen. He wasn't referring to, oh no, it's much, much different than that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to have weeks to prepare for this thing. I'm going to be able to calculate the offense and my opponent, and I'm going to be ready because right now that's the case. And even then, Kyle Shanahan said he hasn't even talked to Aiyuk about a contract. It's been Parag and John. That's it. That's it. This is Kyle just wants to coach football. Just wants to coach football. He don't even talk about contracts. In fact, the only time Kyle's been extremely hands-on with anything other than the draft was the Jimmy G contract. Because Jimmy G ghosted the team. He was like, sure, you give him the money, fine. We'll not take Kirk, whatever. That's the only big contract Kyle's been like really involved with because it's the quarterback. And I'm assuming Kyle will be involved in the Purdy contract. But Kyle doesn't do this stuff. This is a John and Parag thing. And, it's worked with Fred. It's worked with, Nick and Deebo and Kittle and Juszczyk, and it's going to work with Trent. But again, San Francisco doesn't have trade leverage here. They have signing leverage, sure, and things look bad. In fact, I've gotten text all day. He's going to be a Steeler. Confirmed. Going to be a Steeler. Going to be a Steeler. And just wait and see. Wait and see. Like everyone's saying he's going to be a Steeler. And in fact, I have a text right here. He's a Steeler. I've never wavered. You know that. Up here. See if I can find one. Trust me on this one. I know it's hard to believe, but he's going to be a Steeler. I'm sure he's a Steeler. Now, again, time will tell. Couldn't happen. Might happen. Maybe he's Niner. But the way this thing is played out, it does feel like San Francisco is playing a losing battle. Do I hope he stays? Yeah. Is there a path to him remaining a Niner? Yeah, there is. There really is one. And you know what it starts with? Money. Money. Aiyuk didn't complain about touches until this year. He's been the leading target for the last handful of years. I don't think it's like on a list of priorities, money's number one. He even said himself, money equals respect. You want to go somebody for a long time, you don't want to have contract negotiations, fine. How do you tell Aiyuk, we respect you, we want you? You give him the money he wants. You, in good faith, enter renegotiations. But that's why I do think a little bit of this trade stuff is San Francisco. Forcing Aiyuk, you want to go to Cleveland? You want to go to New England? Or do you want to stay? Those are your only options. We're not playing the Pittsburgh game. We're not playing the Commanders game. Well, listen, we ain't serious about them. No way. I firmly believe that Aiyuk has a strong chance to be a Niner, but I also believe that he's going to get traded by the way things are kind of playing out. I truly believe that. But even then, it's not like San Francisco cannot just tell him, sit down, shut up, we'll deal with you later. They've already done it the entire offseason. San Francisco continues to tell Aiyuk to wait and wait and wait and wait. Would they go as far as to wait until week 10? Would Aiyuk wait that long? Again, this whole offseason I've said, who's going to blink first? Who's going to blink? San Francisco is almost forcing Aiyuk to blink. Will he? Who knows? I don't think he actually wants to get traded. I just think he wants to get money. And if somebody else that he likes, Pittsburgh, Washington, will pay him that money, New England pays him a lot more money, he'll go. But ultimately, I think he wants to be a Niner. I just think San Francisco hasn't given him what he wants just yet. So this is where it's about. This is where it's about. That you want to go to Cleveland? Fine. You want to go to New England? Fine. We'll trade you there. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. And I agree that with what the Niners have on the table now, I don't think San Francisco truly wants to take those deals. I don't think San Francisco wants to trade Aiyuk for Kendrick Bourne and a second-round pick. That's not worth it. I don't think San Francisco, although it's a nice return, I don't think they actively want to trade Aiyuk to Cleveland for Cooper and a pick. Aiyuk fits what Shanahan wants in a receiver to a T. In fact, I can argue more than Deebo, albeit very, very different receivers and play style. Aiyuk just wants money. It all comes down to money. They say money talks. That's why San Francisco is trying to coerce a team like the Patriots to, hey, we like your offer more than Pittsburgh's. If we want to have a better offer on the table, we have Cleveland offering us Cooper and a pick. Hey, Aiyuk, the Patriots are going to offer you $32 million. You want to go to New England? We like their offer more than Pittsburgh's. But this is all coming down to San Francisco trying to force Aiyuk to blink. And Aiyuk, now I won't say this. Aiyuk doesn't have zero leverage. He has some, but it's only in trades. Only in trades. And that's why, again, I think San Francisco could tell Aiyuk, sit down, shut up, and make him this kind of metaphorical prisoner on the roster. They've already made him wait for so long. Why wouldn't they make him wait for 2 more weeks? Could they beat a team like the Jets week 1 without him? Probably. They're a good team, mind you. The Jets are a good team, but I'd like to think San Francisco wins that game. But hey, it's not like they're losing Nick Bosa or Fred Warner. They're losing Aiyuk, which he's a great player. Great player. He's phenomenal. But it's not as if Aiyuk is going to make or break your season. Now, Aiyuk definitely hurts your chances of going to a Super Bowl. I don't think Aiyuk is going to sit there and be like, wow, yeah, I'll go to Cleveland now. I don't think Aiyuk is going to blink either as of now because he doesn't have to. If you're looking for a super hard deadline, it's week 9. That's the deadline, week 9. That's when the accrued season comes into play, is week 9. But the worst thing, and it'll be interesting to see, and I have no idea what's going to happen here. It'll be interesting to see just how long San Francisco is willing to play this game. Let's say a trade doesn't happen. How long will San Francisco let Aiyuk sit on the sidelines? Win or lose games. How long are they actually willing to play this game? I don't know how long Aiyuk's willing to play for it. I know San Francisco doesn't mind Aiyuk playing on the 5th-year option. Aiyuk's not going to, though. Now, there is a way where San Francisco could essentially give Aiyuk a 2-year fully guaranteed deal. I do think that would be on the table. But I also think San Francisco wouldn't want a 2-year deal for Aiyuk, knowing they already have essentially a 2-year deal for Aiyuk. They have his rights for 2 years. So I think ultimately the hard deadline is week 9. I don't think it's ever going to get that far. I think things are going to come to a head pretty soon. Pretty soon. And ultimately, I really do think that, this isn't Aiyuk's fault, in my opinion. Aiyuk may ask for more than San Francisco wants to offer him. That's common. San Francisco definitely put themselves in this position. Definitely. Now, Aiyuk did botch a lot of his trade negotiation or contract negotiation stuff, but still. If San Francisco had attacked this from the beginning, didn't go AWOL for months, This thing could have been done. We could have avoided all of this. All of this. Let's see. Hypothetically, if Aiyuk sits out the entire season, do they get the cap space back? I think when they can fine him $40,000 a day. Let's keep that in mind. It all depends. Like, could he fake an injury, go on the PUP list? Like, I'm sure there's a way they can get the money back, but that gets tricky, like taking money away from somebody. I think ultimately, if Aiyuk, let's say, flat out sits out, I don't think it's everything, but I'm sure they can get some money back. There'd definitely be a fine in place a long time for that. But I also am not sure if he goes to practices still, despite holding in. So let's say he holds in, but doesn't play, refuses to play. What does that look like? I'm not entirely sure. I'll look into it though, but I'm not entirely sure. I just think as of now, it is definitely a San Francisco putting 3 offers on the table for Brandon Aiyuk. Cleveland, New England, and us. The emergency break the glass, get him out of here is the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? That is the glass case emergency. But they are playing this game of it's us or it's 2 places you don't want to go. That's what they're doing. And in that same process, hoping Pittsburgh is willing to give up more, making the emergency, we have to trade this guy, worth the actual value. But we shall see. JD Durham, Invader 49ers, Kenny 49ers, 49ers Throwback, Robbie 439, Niners Media, Randy Powers, Paranormal in the Funhouse, Keeping It Real 24/7, and many, many others. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I really appreciate it. 49ers Media, thank you guys so much for being in here in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. What do you think is going to happen with Brandon Aiyuk? Are they going to trade him? Will he be a Pittsburgh Steeler, a Cleveland Brown, a New England Patriot, or are you still in the camp that believes he will be a San Francisco 49er when everything is said and done? Tell me what you think down below in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Hit that bell notification the next time we go live on the audio podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple. Give us a 5-star review. It's the cheapest and easiest way to help the show out. If you would also follow us on social media at 49ers_access is the X or Twitter. 49ers.access is the Instagram. And if you want to see your San Francisco 49ers play, or maybe your Pittsburgh Steelers, use our promo code 49ersaccess, 49 ERSACCESS at SeatGeek.com to save yourself $20 off your first purchase. Maybe it's Aiyuk with the Steelers, Aiyuk with the Niners, with the Browns, with the Patriots. Doesn't matter. Use that promo code and save yourself $20 off. Again, thank you so much for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday afternoon. I got to go pick up my wife from work. And until next time, my name is Sterling Bennett. And as always, stay faithful.